Hi. Recently, another Deep Rock Galactic content creator on the platform, AxisKronos, released a video. He is strangely reluctant to outright state that it is a response to my own video, specifically the 4-minute segment of my video, These Overclocks Are Worse Than Nothing, regarding the overclock hipster. But it's all too clear that it is a response between the thumbnail and the illusions. I'll save you the 30-minute watch, if you haven't seen it already. It lays out a set of fairly convincing arguments in Hipster's favor, which I'll get to later. Along with those arguments, it contains thinly veiled jabs, dismissal, and outright mockery of me, my experiences as a player, and my skill. I'll be frank here. I don't think this sort of discourse is acceptable. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's helpful. I do not wish to engage in or with this sort of discourse. I think it's absurd that this sort of contrived controversy would even arise from simple opinions surrounding an overclock in a silly dwarf game, especially from someone who I thought was sympathetic, given our general ideological similarities, at least when it comes to DRG, and our shared inclination towards optimization. I certainly didn't mean to incite this, and if the sentence from my original video, poking lightheartedly, or so I thought, at Axis, was seen as hostile, or provocation, or an invitation for this sort of discourse, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it that way. I will not be engaging, aside from what has already been done. I will not respond to comments regarding this matter. I will not be speaking further on this matter. Call me sensitive, thin-skinned, oblivious, or naive. I do not care. I do not wish to engage. As always, good faith debate about the game and the overclocks themselves is still welcome. That being said, the supposed topic of Axis's video, presentation aside, is a valid one. Since making my video, I've come to realize that my presentation of Hipster was not what it should have been. It laid out a very harsh picture of the overclock, tainted by my experiences as a player and my experiences with the community. I had generally felt that Hipster was far overpraised and misguidedly thought that skewing my presentation of my own opinion regarding Hipster towards the harsher side would help counteract that. I failed to express, I realize now, that my own priorities and playstyle tainted the video. Typically, I'm relatively averse to expressing support for specific overclocks due to playstyle, because I generally think apologia for bad overclocks by virtue of an unquantifiable characteristic is unhelpful. In this case, that aversion was not motivated by a desire to help, but more a feeling of frustration, and as a result, my content was not what it should have been. I even knew, at some level, what I was getting into. I plastered Hipster on the thumbnail and jokingly referred to it as rage bait among a group of friends. Yet, still, it was not properly contextualized. For that, I apologize. I do, generally, still believe in the veracity of most of my statements in the video. I think some of them were perhaps hyperbolic. I realize that some of them were due to my playstyle as an individual player. I still really do feel that Hipster is worse than nothing, but several players I know, respect, and respected came to the defense of the overclock. One particularly constructive example of such a defense comes from a friend, Jin, who extensively tested and compared certain Hipster builds to the active stability system I so know and love. I'll link those tests and his channel in the description. I also realized that my inclinations as a player who has done a lot of modded and has extensively practiced just not shooting Bronze's Scout for ammo efficiency are probably not broadly perfectly applicable to the majority of players. I typically strongly dislike specifying a balance distinction between Has-5 and 6x2, because in the majority of cases, it's not one that's too worth making. Unfortunately, for me, in Hipster's case, it is. I had planned on making this correction or apology in a more scripted, formal manner, in a proper video. What was supposed to be my next, on M1000 builds. I even have a goofy little thumbnail prepared with hearts and everything. Unfortunately, I don't really have the energy to finish that anymore. Or the expertise, according to some people, I suppose. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I will, however, point you towards r/technicaldrg, a subreddit almost entirely composed of very high-quality, top-level DRG guides and analysis. In particular, the posts by Viren and Dora about, in my opinion, the M1000's 4 best overclocks. Links and channels will be in the description below. I will also say, I suppose, my general opinion towards Hipster here. I think it's a fine generalist for Scout's primary slot. It gives up on some range fidelity and Swarmer and Natasite clear compared to 21222 AI stability engine, and a significant amount of peak DPS against many enemies, ignition, and again, Swarmer clear compared to 32112 thermal exhaust feedback. In exchange, you get more DPS in many ranges, and much better performance against shellbacks and such. I think these guns are generally more comparable to each other than Hipster is to the base weapon. I think what these guns offer is still generally worse for doing what I want compared to the base M1000. Clearly, many other good players, Hazard 6x2 or 5 or otherwise, do not. Do with that information what you will. Thank you to everyone who did for the continued support.